This week, I want to talk about one of the ugliest words in the human language: war. The simply hearing the word should have an emotional response to it, understanding the ugliness that war is. The problem with society today is we've become desensitized to war. Maybe it was the long period of so-called peace that we had before 9/11 happened, where we could see conflicts happening in other countries or our country inflicting conflict on countries and simply say, oh, well, we have to do that to spread freedom around the world. Not understanding the toll that was happening in these countries. See, war's a lot different when you're not living with the horror, when you're not living in fear of a bomb dropping on your house, not living in fear of being at something like a wedding and having a drone drop a bomb on the wedding. But we sit here hundreds of thousands of miles away and we say, oh, they're a casualty of the war on terror. Beyond the physical aspects of war is the mental toll of war. This finally came home to us with Iraq and Afghanistan, and seeing our troops come home without body parts, with PTSD, and living with the horrors of war. The problem with our culture in America is that we've romanticized war for so long without actually living through the horrors of war that we have a warped perception of what it is. Yeah, during the Iraq and Afghanistan, we fully understood the impact because of our brothers, sisters, neighbors, schoolmates who were directly impacted by these conflicts. But there was no draft. They volunteered to go. They had an obligation. They fulfilled it to the best of their ability. So we have the best fighting force in the world, the United States of America. But there is an obvious price to pay for war. And we become so cavalier about war with the industrial military complex, and we talk about how people are making money off of wars, it changes what war is. See, we're in a perpetual state of warfare where we can just keep getting into these conflicts over and over and over again. And where's the machinery come from? Where's logistics come from? These are questions we should be asking, but we don't. I mean, someone's building those drones. Someone's building those tanks. Someone's building those bombs. So if those same people are in the pockets of our politicians, what's the result? A perpetual state of warfare. I mean, it's not even really a war anymore. Congress hasn't declared war since World War II. I mean, honestly, a president can send our troops into a conflict without even consulting Congress and keep them there for a certain amount of time until Congress approves it, which they will do if their party is in charge. I mean, we can even go back to the Iraq War. Democrats and Republicans were on board with the Iraq War until the lies came out. And then we all sat back shocked and surprised. How could our government lie to us? They lied to us because they're funded by these companies that make the bombs, make the tanks, make the drones. And then when we finally stood up and we said the cost is too much, we can't have our troops getting killed and maimed, we just switched to drone strikes. So we're just running around dropping bombs on countries without any declaration of war. Because in the name of the war on terror. I mean, we need to talk about the cost of war beyond our foreign conflicts. The cost of war in American shores. The war on drugs. See, it's saying the word war as a sense of urgency to a solution. What they were trying to do with the solution was eliminate drugs so that they could so-called save us from the scourge of addiction. But what happened? It made it 20 times worse. So I can say, since they want to call it a war, it's a war we lost miserably. War on crime. Make the penalties harsher. It's going to make crime better on the streets. Yeah, it cleaned up a lot of stuff, but the cost was on minorities. The cost was on communities. Do we move any further as society for it? Well, the rich got richer. I mean, Manhattan, the war on crime, that's success. That's a victory in the war on crime. I mean, we get gentrification out of the war on crime. So it goes back to my same point. Who's paying for the war on crime? The corporations giving money to the government, therefore they put a war on crime, and they end up making massive profits into the wealth disparity we have in the United States of America today. Wars always come home to roost. It doesn't matter if it's drone strikes, it doesn't matter if we're sending troops somewhere, it doesn't matter if we create a perpetual state of warfare. There's always consequences for our action. Am I happy we're finally leaving Afghanistan after 20 years? Absolutely. I'm happy. Is there going to be blowback for leaving? Yeah, there's going to be blowback. Look at Vietnam. We left Vietnam, and then the Viet Cong have taken over, became a communist country. But we're not going back and fighting the Viet Cong, because it was a war we should have never been in the first place. It was a war we were in to make sure everybody has democracy so that we can control them. See, this is the way the game is played. We celebrate with fireworks, Russian war, and the bombs, but we sit there and pretend that it was a monolith and everybody was with the revolutionaries, but there are certain people who weren't even in the game. People of color weren't in the game because they were still slaves. But they still fought for their nation with the thought that their grandkids could celebrate the freedom that's on a piece of paper. They still gave their lives in World War II and the Korean War, even though when they came home, they were most likely to be lynched from a tree. This is the price of war. War isn't easy. It's a complex subject. So we can't just sit there and say, oh, let's support our government no matter what they do. The whole point of democracy is standing up to your government. It doesn't matter if your party's in charge or not. If something's wrong, it's wrong. We can simply say that war is wrong. So, what are we going to do? Do you want more wars? Do you want perpetual warfare? Because wars also cost money. Our deficit is sky high because we have military all over the world and we keep building weapons and causing conflicts so we can build more weapons, and it keeps going and going and going on and on and on. Now, I support the troops. As a veteran, I support the troops. What I don't support is our government creating a perpetual state of warfare. We need to look at things differently, folks. We can't keep doing this. When 9/11 happens, we're wondering why they hate us. We've been causing a mess in that region over oil for decades upon decades. That's why they hate us. They hate us because we're in the Middle East, meddling with their affairs, causing one side to fight another side, to fuel our war so we can keep going over there, building more weapons and causing more war. We need to open our eyes to this. We need to hold our politicians' feet to the fire. We need to get out of conflicts we don't belong in. We need to stop losing lives over unnecessary conflicts. It's called being smarter. My name is California King. Thank you for attending my Jeep Chat.